John, one British man has set out on a mission, pouring hundreds of hours of work to create a tome to prove to the world that it misunderstands Poland. Welcome to
What's Up Poland?
the daily video show
Where
we talk about
news,
views,
culture,
history,
life.
everything Poland. Yes, this is the story of British journalist in Warsaw, Jo Harper. I believe, John, I think you have to declare an interest here that you know Jo from way back when. Is that true?
Yes, indeed. I've had the pleasure of working with Jo over a number of years, on and off in different organizations. But yeah, Joe's hot up on his Polish politics, especially.
He
I
is,
think-
boy.
yeah.
Oh boy, does he know. I want you to put your feelings for Jo to one side, John, and try and be objective here, because we have to
Sure.
be as esteemed journalists. We have to apply the rigors of journalism to every
Absolutely.
story we do. So I'll hit the viewers, our beloved viewers. And by the way, guys, if you're loving the What's Up Poland format, you want to find out more stories about Poland, you can always click on the subscribe button and check out the rest on the channel, wherever you find it. So Jo has become so incensed by the misleading, I should put this in quote marks, misleading, erroneous, sometimes misinformed articles and analyses that are written about Poland, that he decided to write the book on the subject. Yes, Jo has published a book called Our Man in Warszawa, so Warsaw, How the West Misread Poland. I nearly read that as how the Mest
Don't
misread
even try.
Poland.
Just don't even try.
So he had a feeling that what he was reading about Poland in the British media coverage was missing nuances and perspectives he was hearing from people on the ground. There's a great anecdote that he talks about on the article, which you can see below this video as you watch it, which is one esteemed UK publication did an analysis of Polish politics and had an anecdote about a drunken man heckling a politician. And Jo presents this as a good example of how the certain, at least, news organizations misrepresent Poland or selectively choose little anecdotes which present Poland as, in his words, the other, this faraway country about which we know very little. What's your view on this, John? Like, do you have an instinctive view? Do you think that being as you are British Polish?
Yeah. Well, I would say that Joe's absolutely right, and I'm really happy that he's written such a book, because I'm also getting slightly tired of how Poland is portrayed in the Western press, because you have to understand that what Joe writes about in his book is essentially Western media, especially British media. And when I spoke to him about this book, he was telling me how, he just was fed up with the way Poland is portrayed, but also how Britain basically, or how journalists in Britain, they tend to, stick with kind of established politicians, those that speak English, those who are kind of, on the liberal side of politics, rather than, the law and justice, who are, on the right side of the spectrum. And as a result, you don't really get a clear picture of what's going on in Poland, because certainly the British press, what it does is that it simply tells one side of the story. It doesn't tell the other side of the story, and as a result, you don't really get kind of proper coverage of Poland. And this actually goes for people or correspondents of Western media who are in Poland. They don't really tend to tell the full picture, because I kind of get the feeling that it's they just want to, that it's just easier to tell one side of the story, because it's that much easier to get through to politicians who speak English and who are slightly more liberal and open to, let's say, people from the outside. And that basically,
It's funny you mentioned
Joe
that.
writes a lot about this in his book. Yeah.
I once got copies of a certain magazine, British political magazine, sent to me by my mum, because I was so desperate for reading material, and they were always a few months out of date. And what I noticed was that when you read politics stories that are out of date, you quickly see how much nonsense is written in them. Opinion basically with no real basis of fact, or predictions which actually turn out to be completely false. And just how hard it is actually for journalists to be able to write a piece which is truly balanced. So I kind of feel sorry for journalists in all of this, when they're sort of parachuted in for the 2 weeks of a political election and told by their bosses to move off somewhere else, because inevitably not knowing the language and all the rest of it, they're sure to shortcut the circuit by Googling whatever they can find in English. Fortunately, there is one website in which you always get a balanced, informed, analytical, and fantastic view of Poland, which is the firstnews.com. So you can always go and check that out by clicking on the story below this. You can find out more about Joe's book. You can find out more about what he says about the book. I think it's fair to say, John, you've interviewed him. We may as well cross plug your magnificent show.
Yes, I interviewed Joe for The Debrief, which is my weekly podcast for The First News as well. And if you haven't seen it yet, please do check out thefirstnews.com, and you'll be able to see on the right-hand side, you'll see a lovely little yellow box with me holding a microphone. It's not this one, it's another one. But yeah, do check out my podcast, and do subscribe to the podcast, and do subscribe to this channel as well. For
there's so many calls to action. I'm running out of fingers to cross.
I know, it's like this and that and the other, but you know what to do, Paddy. I mean, like, you know.
Well, if you've done all of those things, you may well just then decide to buy Joe's book. Let's hope some people do, and let's hope it's the right people. That could be good as well. So, see you again for another episode of What's Up, Poland.
Bye-bye.